The treaties that were signed at Fond du Lac, the end of the lake, Gitchagummy, which is today called Duluth Superior. Down at the Fond du Lac, the treaties were signed. And then they decided we need more and more of this land. But the people of the end of the lake, of Lake Superior, the wild rice, the sturgeons, the everything, the beautiful islands, Madeline Island, the islands, everything, they said, no, we won't give them up. So the government became stronger and stronger and stronger upon them. And they started using a powerful medicine on the Anishinaabe called Ishkotewabu, firewater, alcohol, huge. And they tried everything. Finally, in 1854, they said, we will pay you so much a year, every year, for you letting us live on this land, not the reservation, off. Today that is called ceded land that the Indian gave up. The Anishinaabe could not speak English. The interpreters, the quarter bloods, whatever, were they lying? Or the government just lying and saying, no, you're not just letting us stay on your land, it's ours. 1 year later, 2 years later, they went back to Washington and saying, we never agreed with that. The Anishinaabe said, too late. It's been all passed. So then, that's called the 1854 Treaty. And they then made boundaries of the reservations. Most of that was not true. You cannot see it today in your mind because your mind today, but back then, who knows where an area boundary was? It was complete forest, stuff, things. It was hard. Who would even travel that far to areas? So then, what the elders of the Fond du Lac Reservation that were moved up to what is today called Cloquet, Brookston, Sawyer, these are the edges of the reservation. That's not true at all. At Grand Portage, they cut off, it's called Hat Point, probably 7, 8, 9 miles to the border, up and down in all the islands on the original boundaries. The government said, no, we're taking that for mining. No, you're not getting it. We didn't get it till 1980s, that land back. What is called today the town of Cromwell from Sawyer, going all the way up to a town called Floodwood. The Savannah River, that was all Indian land. The government put it into townships for farmers. Took it. Fond du Lac has a little bit of Indian land from Sawyer to the west. How'd that get to be Indian land? Because it all was. They believe it was 70%. It might have been much, much more was taken from the Fond du Lac Reservation. In 1889, the government said, we're going to help those poor Indians. We're going to let them own their own land within the reservation. Each person can have 80 acres, an adult. Or they can sell it. They don't have to pay taxes. Yeah, they can sell it or keep it, but we're going to move them west of the Mississippi, the Mississippi. Because President Andrew Jackson wanted them all dead. If not, he started moving them all, the presidents, west of the Mississippi. They created the Oklahoma all Indian land. Nope, that didn't last long. So they made one before North Dakota was a state. They made it from White Earth, Red Lake, a huge, they were going to move 7 states of Indians in. Never happened. Why? They found out that the Red River area was the richest farmland area for 100 miles on each side of the river. So they said, nope. Well, let's move them. So they started in 1889, they started moving 90 a year from Fond du Lac to White Earth. I knew some of the elders that went to see their family. They moved. I know many names of the Fond du Lac families that were moved over there. Then they started a thing. In the Dawes Act, the idea was to take away from them all Indian rights. They wanted them to be citizens because they didn't want the stuff that was happening. But they couldn't do it. It didn't work. So then one of the best things for people at the time was the railroads. It was the worst thing for Indians. Why? The white man moved in. What did he also do with the railroads? Haul wood. The white man was making houses, Chicago, everywhere. You couldn't keep up with the timber. Minnesota took 80% of its white pine away. On Fond du Lac was some of the most beautiful white pine, red pine, especially white pine. They made railroad track after railroad track after railroad track on Fond du Lac Reservation. They had a $70,000 check or money stuff in those days to be given to the reservation. They never got it. The Tribal Council that was started in 1934, the Indian Reorganization Act of 1889, the Dawes Act, that's where all these, you have to look that up and read it. You'll see the things on the Dawes Act, which was done to the Indian. They then even started the blankets with the smallpox. They again did that. Then they started, if you owned Indian land after 1889, to save your life to go to heaven, you could give your land to the Catholic Church or Episcopal Church. Did they do that at Fond du Lac? Yes, they did. Some of the church Indians say, oh no, that's not true. Yes, it was. Because I can tell you people right now at Fond du Lac whose grandparents told them that. A lot of our land was given to the Catholic Church. They then started taking kids away to border schools. Not border schools, to these schools that they all over. Then there's quite a bit to it. I won't get into it. It takes too long. But it was against the law to do an Indian ceremony. Why? It was not just the churches. It was the government. They didn't want an uprising from out west. I'll think of it later. But then the big drums came in 1856, 58, and they didn't want that. They thought it would help with the uprisings. The ghost dance from out west. So then, they made it against the law. Then as it got to 1934, a white man helped the Indians all over. They then started a thing called the Indian Reorganization Act. You weren't to have the chiefs in power anymore. They were elected tribal council, which turned out a lot different, but somewhat better. Because what was happening with the alcohol, when they had the annuity payments of the treaty, they had to go to Madeline Island to get it. Then they made them quit going so far. Fond du Lac Indians of the reservation had to go to Duluth. They got them drunk, intoxicated. They shot and killed each other. That's what happened. There are many, many written things of that. I can think of the names of many that were killed there by their own people. Finally, it was stopped, the alcohol being there at the annuity payments. Then, they had this vote, as I said, for the 1934 to elect tribal councils, Indian Reorganization Act. Who voted against it? Fond du Lac. Why? They were so scared of what the government was doing. It took 3 to 4 years. Red Lake went to the meetings. Everybody laughed at him. You'll be a millionaire. Do what the government, the white man says he's going to make us a millionaire. They laughed at Red Lake. They went home. Wouldn't sign it. Red Lake was in poverty for years. They own 100% of their land today. Huge. They moved from 3 areas. They couldn't make the big Indian territory, so they moved them to White Earth, Red Lake, and they built 5 reservations called Turtle Lakes in North Dakota and Montana. They then tried stopping the culture, making them make it as a white man, all of these things. Then later on, things started going and going in the 60s. Under Lyndon Baines Johnson, there started to be Indian programs. In Cloquet, they had an Indian office. They started making things. They had some programs on all the reservations. Then Fond du Lac decided, and Red Lake, they're going to have a bingo. The state said, you can't do that. Red Lake says, yeah. Roger Durdane, the chairman, said, yeah. Well, come on up here and stop us. So Hubert Humphrey Jr. from the state of Minnesota said, well, we're going to come up and arrest you. He said, oh, good, go ahead. Oh, by the way, do you speak Ojibwe? Why? Because you're going to our court and our jail. So the state didn't do it. So they let up on Fond du Lac. They started bingo over here. Then they signed with the state on casinos. You had to sign along an agreement with the state to give them X amount. That was a big fight. They then built a college here. It's still here at Fond du Lac. At one time, there was over 2,000 employees here. The name of Fond du Lac was, and still is, Babushkamintigung, the place of the sacred rock. That was the boundary of the southeastern boundary or eastern boundary of this reservation. What did they do? They flooded it, the big paper mills. It is between Scanlon and Cloquet away up. That is the boundary, the treaty said. That is where the migration was led by the otter. It stopped at the sacred rock, bald rock, the sacred Babushkamintigung. When I did all the elders here in the early 1970s through a program, they have a book of it here, they all said the name of the reservation, Babushkamintigung. Nagutchewanung really is the old Fond du Lac down there. So these are the things. The otter led them up to these places. The Supreme Court says the Yakima decision, there was illegal money taken within the reservation boundaries. You can no longer sue and get illegal land taken within reservation boundaries. Because the Yakima Reservation in Wisconsin, in Washington, out west, the big city of Tacoma, 40,000, is inside a reservation land. They had illegally taken most of it. In Oklahoma again today, they finally found one big one of that. So these are things that happened. Fond du Lac lost over 70%. They now own around 38, 39. And this is just some of the history of what happened long ago till today. But there were many, many other things we can do. Many of other, of me trying to tell this. So miigwech, this is all the history of Babushkamintigung, Fond du Lac.